G'day, my name's Graham. I want to explain why people in Africa never developed technologically, and the people in the northern hemisphere did. Unless we stop saying they're black and they're white and all that, unless there's some secret behind that. Because black people we know can do physics and become physicists and stuff like that, mathematicians. So it's obviously they're not incapable of learning equally to others, given the right parenthood and carrying on. First, I'd just like to say, though, anyone who thinks they're really clever because they manipulate technology and can gain $1 million salaries but can't cook are really missing one of the great pleasures of life. And if you can't cook, well, you're limited. Why bother earning any money at all if you can't cook? Because you're buying food well, the people are touched and risking food poisoning. That's only my take on that. But the thing is, if people in Africa, because people in the northern hemisphere, because of the very cold winters and eons of ice ages, which kept pockets of people into temperate valleys, maybe, stuff like that, on the edge of it. And these people who live in winters, they had to account or work out how to store food through winter. They had to become accountants, in other words. That's probably the regions of your banking system, if you think about it. You have to bank food for the winter in some way. Or you went hungry. You had to find a way of storing food, frozen, chucking your legs of meat or mammoth in the snow and slicing a bit off as you needed it through winter, and that then creates a different mentality because they're thinking there through those long winters that some will starve there. They'll have to try to get their families, their women, the fertile women through the winter. So that's why maybe the goddesses we see, the little statues of God are already very plump, very sensual women. Depends how you like your women, but they're very plump, very sensual looking women, is because they probably had to keep them that way. Because they had to go through these winters where there wasn't much to eat, so you have to keep your fertile females, kind of make sure they're fed. If no one else gets fed, you make sure your fertile females, and some bloke who's got the strength at the end of the winter maybe can, make a couple pregnant or something. Birth of a new tribe, or a new race, new culture. And that's a very simplified version. Then the advent of fire, creating metallurgy accidentally and creating pottery accidentally. Well, it all came about because of fire. Most of it discovered by accident. Yeah, it happens. You put some stones in the fire, they start to flux and start to pour away, and then someone goes, "Oh, look at that." I call it fireside dreaming. That's the smoke of the fire and the haze causes you to dream as you're watching the fire, and you've had a few mushrooms after you've had your last evening meal, and you're contemplating the shadows on the wall in the caves, the first movies ever made by humans. Entertainment was on the shadow boxing, shadow puppets on the wall. But in Africa, we could call them the sunny people. They call the Africans are summer people, and the northerners the winter people. Right? If you want to show it like that, because it changes the whole perception of how the human race has developed. Because if you don't have to store your food up through winter and have to sort of account, okay, we've got to count. That's how farming came about. People think farming came about because of winters. Big people learned that it could. How do we know that you could produce more of the same food that you've eaten? By you defecate outside, the seeds you defecate out, they then regrow the food you've eaten. It doesn't take a genius to work out that fertilizer working, and we're growing that out. Like the initiation of farming may not have been some great from the gods at all, but it means some women gathering next year's harvest from last year's toilet, that sort of thing. It's very simple. And from there, someone worked it out. That's a good idea. We'll extend that. Humans have been highly intelligent for thousands and thousands of years. They haven't suddenly sprung into cognition in the last few thousand years. That's just absolute nonsense. But in Africa, the sunny people, if you like, because they have to have all that sun, they had no such stresses upon them that would need to cause them to adapt their culture, their technological culture, and there's no difference between, say, the black people and the white people. No one can say one is a superior culture in one way when it comes to, say, violence and stuff like that. If someone said, well, whites have better cities and all of that stuff through technology and all that, engineering. But you can't say the blacks are less violent than whites, although they may be instances of that. But the way whites behaved in the Second World War was reprehensible, and it's the way whites have behaved the last few decades in wars is reprehensible. It doesn't show there are any signs of being any further advanced than anyone living in the Congo, in actual fact. It's just that technology is better. There's a threat so superior that people don't take on in a really full-on war because they wipe each other out. Africa's a war, they wipe a few of them out because there's still more to breed. White people have a big war, they wipe everyone out. There's nowhere to breed. It's very simple. Things are actually quite simple to understand. But this thing about Africa, suddenly they're all concerned that they have to get, they can't come up with new ideas and stuff like that. Maybe you have to think about their past. And how was it in their past? What is the best aspects of their past? What was the best aspects of their past? Not having any debt, from not being sort of, slavery went on throughout Africa. Let's not deny that. It's nothing to do with whites or blacks or anything. Just how slavery happened. Arabs and Muslims, everyone had slaves. It was the Romans and Vikings and blacks had slaves. But apart from that bit, that's not a terrible part of human history. What happened for 1,000 of years. Cheap labour. They've got cheap labour now. It's different, slightly different. You have to feed your slaves the same. But if Africans need to come up with new ideas, we can't develop anything technical in Africa. Yes, think of simplicity. What is the most simple way of developing Africa without the need of the silicon chip? Well, I mean, spurious or cynical. I'm looking at the idea of developing a thought train according to the actuality of the fact that all the major breakthroughs in technology, which is a silicon chip, let's face it, that's the number one breakthrough that changes everything. And you can't get the ownership of that. That's owned by certain people. Unless the black people come up and make a silicon chip, African people can come make a silicon chip. They can't, because it's owned. Those things are patented and copyrighted, and there's sort of things going on about that. But so they have to think beyond that, beyond the chip. And I think the answer to the human race in the future is to think beyond the silicon chip as the means to fulfill everything. It's not. That's just an easy way out. That's just a really easy, more profit in the silicon chip, and everyone buys toothbrushes with silicon chips in. Well, whoopee, we've got a toothpaste with silicon chip in. I can't even cook a meal, but I'm so clever. I can't cook a meal. Can't hardly cook a tin of baked beans and some chips and eggs. And look at me, I'm so smart. Got a toothpaste with a silicon chip in it, and everything else in my house has got silicon chips in it. Well, whoopee! Look how clever I am. No, it's not. It's just someone's able to sell you stuff with silicon chips in because it looks like it's upmarket and you look like keeping up with Joneses. But I'm just saying that for Africa, there is a difference. Their cultural evolution was different because they lived in a sunny place, like the Pacific Islands, sunny places. And so there was no need to store and market for and account for the food through winter. There's no need for that. So that's why there's a difference between the cultural evolution of the people in Africa, or sunny people if you like, and the winter people in the north. They had the force of nature, the life force itself. Call it evolution if you like. I call it the life force. That'll do. That's a better description. They had no choice. but to develop technology. Because the winters force you, and it also gives you the times where you sit beside a coal fire thinking, what do I do about this? I've got to do something about this. Improve my living conditions because it's cold all winter. You want to improve that. And Africans who live in a nice, sunny, warm country, climates, there's no need to if you're happy with that. And it's a beautiful lifestyle. It's a beautiful lifestyle. Living without all the mod cons, and a lot of African people don't want it, and they're the wisest people on earth right now. That's for sure. That's for certainty. Those who are happy with their traditional lifestyle are the wisest people on earth right now. So, there's wise people in all cultures, of course, but it just depends how you see life itself. Don't be jealous of others because of what they've got, because they might have other things that you don't want. It's that simple as that.